It's February 1st, 2015. The Patriots lead the Seahawks 28-24, but as the clock ticks under 30 seconds, Seattle is 1 yard away from going back on top and likely hoisting the Lombardi Trophy. But a lot can happen in such a short distance. And after everything it took us to get to this point, none of these guys know what comes next. You might, but then again, you're a genius. For everyone else, to understand how much can be forgotten just from one moment, we need to rewind. Down 4 with 26 seconds left, the Seahawks have gotten themselves in a decent position to win. If needed, they have 3 downs plus a timeout at their disposal and are just a yard away from being the first back-to-back champs since their opponents did it in 04-05. And with the way they demolished the Broncos a year ago for the franchise's first Lombardi Trophy, it felt like a solid bet that they could do it again. Their core was young, they were paying nothing for an incredible quarterback, and that offseason, they were able to lock up the vets who had helped create the Seahawks' new identity. It was enough for people to talk about Seattle as a potential dynasty, or at the very least, a team that could become the first NFC squad to make consecutive Super Bowls since the Packers did it in the late 90s. Although they found themselves at 500 after 6 games, that included close, late losses to the Cowboys and Rams. From there, they went to work. Seattle dropped just one of their final 10 games and won 6 straight to finish the season. Once again, they had the top defense in the league, who, despite not needing much help, got a big boost from the other side of the ball. For the 4th straight year as a Seahawk, Marshawn Lynch ran for over 1,200 yards while he led the league in rushing touchdowns and crotch grabs. Russell Wilson had the best season of his young career, in part because he grew into an even bigger threat on the ground. After they locked up the NFC's top seed, Seattle put it all together against the Panthers in the divisional round. Wilson threw 3 touchdowns to match the defense's 3 takeaways, including this Cam Chancellor pick, which he took 90 yards the other way to seal the victory. But facing the Packers in the conference championship, Seattle's reign finally looked undone. With less than 3 minutes to play, they were down 19-7 thanks in part to 4 interceptions from Wilson. He began to make amends with a 1-yard score just ahead of the 2-minute warning. Hauschka hit the extra point, then sent an onside kick straight to Brandon Bostic, who couldn't hang on. But Chris Matthews could. 4 plays later, Lynch took care of the rest from 24 yards out. Seattle went for 2 to make it a field goal lead, which sent Wilson into retreat before heaving up a prayer that Luke Wilson brought in. And the Seahawks would need all the points they could get, because Aaron Rodgers did what Aaron Rodgers does, and Mason Crosby kicked a field goal that sent the game to overtime. All that did was give Wilson time to complete his redemption tour. On the opening possession, he hit Doug Baldwin for 35 yards, then on the next play, connected with Jermaine Kearse from the same distance for a walk-off touchdown. And with that, Seattle's title defense continued. But while the Seahawks are the defending champs, this territory is a bit more familiar to New England. It's just the last time they found themselves here, things didn't go quite the Patriots' way. 3 years ago, in a not too dissimilar situation, New England let the opposing running back reach the end zone untouched. Believing in Tom Brady, they wanted the ball in his hands instead of leaving it up to the defense. But even touchdown Tom couldn't dig them back out against the Giants. With 2 more Lombardi-less seasons after that, it felt like an eternity since New England had won 3 Super Bowls in 4 seasons. Their 2 appearances since ended in defeat via New York, and Brady hadn't gotten any younger. But to understand what Brady still means to this team, you have to go a ways back. You have to understand who he is, where he came from. I'm not going to do that to you. Here's what you need to know. So, coming into this season, the pressure was on Brady to prove he still had it. But after a complete beatdown by Kansas City, New England found themselves at 2-2. They also found a grave for their dynasty being dug as cries of their demise grew louder. Discussions were being had about if Brady was washed up, and it didn't help that his new, sexier understudy had come in against the Chiefs and looked good. But Brady wasn't sweating the talk, or his performance, and Bill Belichick, following the loss, let the world know he was just really excited to play Cincinnati.
We're on to Cincinnati.
What do you think having a 37-year-old?
We're on to Cincinnati. It's nothing about the past, nothing about the future. Right now we're preparing for Cincinnati.
Unfortunately for the Bengals, they were just what New England needed. It was the first of 7 straight wins as the Patriots went from being buried by the media to clinching the AFC's top seed with a week to spare. And while their bye week was followed by a back-and-forth shootout win against the Ravens, the story of the Patriots season was again rewritten after they dismantled the Colts. Despite a fairly convincing victory that earned them a Super Bowl berth, the extra week ahead of the big game was spent discussing the Patriots' latest gate. Indianapolis notified the league that they believed New England had been using underinflated balls, a claim they had also reported after the teams faced off in Week 11 of the regular season. On January 23rd, the league hired Ted Wells to get to the bottom of it, and ahead of the Super Bowl, everyone lost their goddamn minds. Somehow, it was decided the game must go on. But I'm sure that'll all end quickly and everyone will handle it with enough respect to make it a non-issue. And if any team is capable of ignoring some self-curated bullshit, well, it's New England. Hanging on to their 4-point lead, the Patriots offense hasn't let distractions affect them tonight. Brady had to shake off a first-quarter interception, but from there, he stayed true to form. Brandon LaFell, the latest guy to come through New England's revolving door for outside receivers, opened the scoring in the second quarter. After the Seahawks matched that, Brady found Gronk for a touchdown just before halftime.
Gronkowski and a touchdown!
A person dressed as a shark attempted to steal the show, but once the second half kicked off, it went the same as the first. Brady threw an interception, which helped Seattle take a 10-point lead. Then he started to chip away. He found Danny Amendola from short range to cut their deficit to 3. And once New England's defense forced a 3-and-out, the Pats got the ball with plenty of time. Brady went 7 for 7 to get down to the 6. And after LeGarrette Blount powered forward for a few, Edelman found enough open space to give New England their first lead of the second half with just over 2 to play.
Caught! Touchdown! Julian Edelman!
But when Seattle got the ball back, they proved to have a few fireworks left. Just inside the 50 with 1:40 on the clock, Wilson found Ricardo Lockett on 3rd and 10 for a new set of downs. What came next was one of the wildest catches in any Super Bowl. Wilson looked deep right side for Kearse, who was incredibly well defended. As both players went to the ground, the ball bounced off the Seahawk before he managed to corral it in, get up, and get forced out of bounds to stop the clock. All of a sudden, Seattle had 1st and goal with over a minute to play. Given the circumstances, the obvious choice was beast mode. Going left side, he found some daylight but was brought down at the 1. And with that, we find ourselves here. Anyone who's watched the Seahawks the last few years has a pretty good idea for what might come next. Lined up next to Wilson, sticking with Lynch seems an easy choice. He's been a force ever since he came onto the scene, originally as a Cal Golden Bear. Back-to-back 1,000-yard, double-digit touchdown seasons turned Lynch into a first-round draft pick, and he immediately maintained his success in Buffalo. His 3rd year was derailed by suspension and injury, and in his absence, Fred Jackson's play convinced the Bills to flip Lynch. Seattle swooped in and managed to land the back for a 4th and a 5th. So, what did they get in return for a couple day 3 picks? Just a dude who was capable of plowing through the entire Saints defense and trigger earthquake-esque seismograph recordings. In his first full season as a Seahawk, Lynch set career bests across the board, and then one-upped himself a year later when he rushed for nearly 1,600 yards. In the 2014 regular season, for the 2nd year in a row, he led the league in rushing touchdowns. And tonight, he's already over 100 yards. Of his 24 carries, only 2 have resulted in no gain. Having just powered through the Pats at close range, it's fair to expect more. But with the clock ticking in the final minute of regulation and New England having already bucked their trend by stopping the running back, the Pats continue to show faith in their defense by not calling a timeout. That means as Wilson and company come to the line, here's what they see. New England's D has gone into a goal line look, while Seattle stuck with 11 personnel. That meant 7 defenders on the line, plus another linebacker in the box, against 6 blockers, one of which being the tight end. With no substitutions made, New England's nickel package is still on the field, a rare sight this close to the end zone. So Seattle's 3 wide receivers all have one-on-ones, essentially daring the Seahawks to go to the air. And although Lynch is as sure of a bet to pick up a yard as anyone in the league, they have 3 chances and could get a better look that would let them power it in. At Wilson's disposal are Baldwin, Kearse, and Lockett, all of whom have been kept fairly quiet so far tonight. And while that had been far from the norm leading up to the Super Bowl, with all the offense had done, there was a clear odd man out. Baldwin and Kearse had been Wilson's favorite targets that season. That carried into their playoff run, as in each game they either cracked 100 yards receiving or scored a touchdown. And granted, Lockett did also have a career season, it just didn't take much. The former undrafted free agent out of Fort Valley State signed on with the Seahawks in 2011. He made Seattle's practice squad before getting called up in December. After bouncing around the league, he returned to the Seahawks during the 2013 season. And although Wilson looked his way just 15 times during this past year, this whole championship thing is nothing new for Lockett. Tonight marked his 3rd trip to the Super Bowl. So if for no other reason, his big game experience justifies why he's lined up here. The same can't really be said for the guy opposite him. Or at least it definitely wasn't the case about an hour ago. Like Lockett, Malcolm Butler didn't hear his name called at the draft. The Patriots gave him a call for their rookie minicamp this past offseason, where he did enough to earn a 3-year, $1.5 million contract. But that far from guaranteed a spot on the team. And with a cornerback room crowded by Darrelle Revis, Logan Ryan, and Brandon Browner, he had to fight just to make it as the 6th man. It didn't hurt that Browner began the season serving a suspension, so Butler was able to make his debut in Week 1. He'd be a healthy scratch for a handful of games, but got his first career start in December. And as the Patriots locked up the AFC, managed more playing time down the stretch. But now that there was a bit more on the line, Butler hadn't heard his number called until near the end of the 3rd quarter. Matt Patricia had gotten tired of watching Kyle Arrington get burned by the Seahawks' Chris Matthews, so Browner shifted over and left Kearse for Butler. And as Wilson tried to pick on the rookie, Butler did more than anyone expected. On back-to-back plays, he stopped Kearse ahead of the line to gain, then made this leaping play on 3rd down to again prevent Kearse from not only keeping the drive alive, but also kept Seattle out of the red zone. And once New England got the lead, he did his best to protect it. Inside the 2-minute warning, he again went over the top to defend Wilson's pass to Kearse. He wouldn't be as fortunate on the incredible catch that got Seattle inside the 10, but he had put himself in great position that only a perfect throw could beat. One Lynch run later, and we're here. It's the culmination of an amazing game where neither side has managed to hang on to the lead for long. Seattle has the chance to fulfill dynastic visions and be the first team since New England to win back-to-back Super Bowls. The Patriots, meanwhile, are looking to prove they're not done and can still win when it matters most. While big names have gotten them here, both teams are asking their less celebrated players to help finish this off. With 1 yard separating triumph from heartbreak, welcome to a moment in history.
Play clock at 5. Pass is intercepted at the goal line by Malcolm Butler. Unreal.
Thanks for watching, and thanks to everyone who suggested this episode ever since the series debuted. If you're still here, check out this Rewinder playlist, it's got a bit of everything, and subscribe to SB Nation for more.